Today, I'm going to explain a mystery thriller movie called The Trapped. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens in urban China as a woman walks towards her office. She is happily chatting on her phone, unaware of her surroundings. This is when two masked men appear out of nowhere and force her inside their car. They then take her to an unknown site which seems to be some sort of a medical facility. The scene abruptly changes to a news station where a late-night interview is being conducted. Tonight's guest is Ren Zhihao, a popular presenter who runs a super hit show, 24 Hour. It revolves around mysterious criminal cases where the presenter Ren goes through the evidence and tries to uncover the real culprit. During the interview, Ren is asked if he has ever been intimidated not to go after the truth. He reveals that he has been threatened several times before, but promises to keep fighting for justice and truth. Weeks pass by and Ren continues to get high praise for his show, 24 Hour. But as the show gets bigger with each passing episode, he begins to have creative differences with the sponsors. In the end, he quits the job and decides to head a new project called Scream alongside his assistant, Ji Zhao. In the next scene, the woman who was kidnapped in broad daylight wakes up in a creepy establishment by the ocean side. She finds herself in an industrial kind of room, while her left leg is chained to a bed. After desperately trying for a few minutes, the hook attaching the chain comes off, freeing her leg. She then grabs an axe from nearby and whacks the door as hard as possible. This breaks the door, but as soon as she runs outside, she finds a dirty passageway with a locked metallic door at the end. In the meantime, Ren and his crew are in an abandoned building trying to shoot a murder mystery episode. Suddenly, he hears his secretary Ji Zhao scream, so he rushes to her. Upon arrival, Ren is shocked to find a man crouching in pain. His clothes are spotted with dried blood, and his face is completely covered with bandages. This worries the team, so they immediately rush the man to the nearest hospital. Soon afterwards, the local police arrive at the hospital to handle the case. While they record Ji Zhao's statement, Ren tries to converse with the man in the emergency room. The man has suffered severe burns, and the reporter asks why he didn't seek medical help. As a producer with connections to several media houses, Ren promises that he means no harm and only wants to hear the true story. He also spots a tattoo of an angel's wing on his forearm and asks about it. However, the strange man doesn't speak a single word. Disappointed, Ren leaves him alone and comes outside where an officer is taking Ji Zhao's signatures. It turns out the officer is Ren's old friend from college, Aman. That night, Ren and his assistant are setting up their new office when suddenly they discover a package addressed to him in the prop box. Inside is a burnt diary, which the duo sits down to read. They soon discover that it is a journal of a person who seems to be trapped in some sort of prison. Unbeknownst to them, the diary came from the medical institution that the kidnapped woman is kept in. Ren sees the name Wu Ruojin scribbled on the bottom of one of the pages. He also finds a sketch of an angel's wing, which is similar to the injured man's tattoo. Alarmed, Ren immediately rushes to the hospital, only to learn that the patient mysteriously vanished a few hours ago. The following day, he meets his friend Aman and inquires who this Wu Ruojin is. The cop reveals that Wu is a young girl who had come to the police and filed a complaint that she was abducted and forcefully kept in a mental institution named Riverside Private Rehabilitation Center. She was able to escape after the place caught fire and killed everyone in it except her. Aman adds that Wu is currently undergoing a supervised medical evaluation in a nursing home. A few days later, Ren and his assistant go to the nursing home where they meet Wu. She is still traumatized by her past experiences, and Ren doesn't want to force a conversation either. Thus, he leaves his business card and asks her to set up a meeting whenever she feels comfortable to do so. In the meantime, Ren begins researching about Wu Ruojing and her family life. I don't know why I'm rolling my R for that name. He finds out that she is the daughter of business tycoon Li Xin and her first husband. After her divorce, Li Xin married a man named Ma Li, who was then appointed as the director of the Xin Industries. On the other hand, Wu studied arts in America for 3 years, away from her family. She returned back to China when her mother's health suddenly declined. But shortly after Wu had returned, a series of strange events took place. First, her mother passed away, and then Ma Li was found dead in his home. On the day of his death, the gravely injured Wu showed up at the police station with a complaint. She alleged that she was abducted and forcibly kept in the Riverside Rehabilitation Center. It was only after the place burned down that she was able to escape it. The police arrested Wu on suspicion of her stepdad's murder, but with the lack of credible evidence, she was placed in a nursing home. A few days pass, and Ren once again arranges a meeting with Wu, this time in an interrogation room. He brings out the diary and asks whether she killed her father. Wu instantly says no, but Ren believes that she's hiding something. Therefore, he promises to take her story to the general people and gives her a chance to improve her public image. Upon hearing this, she finally decides to speak up. The story then shifts to the very first scene, and it is revealed that the woman who was kidnapped by the masked men was none other than Wu Ruojing. They take her to the Riverside Private Rehab Center, which looks neglected from the outside. Once they gag and tie her to a wheelchair, she is escorted to the center's director, Victor, a psychotic doctor who enjoys torturing his patients. He creepily tells Wu that they will now take care of her. All she has to do is consume her medications so that she can be discharged as soon as possible. All she has to do is chug back some of today's sponsor, G Fuel. Later, a male nurse named Len, who has the tattoo of an angel's wing on his forearm, comes to her cell with daily medications. He asks her to take her tablets, but when she refuses to do so, he begins to write it down on her medical report. Suddenly, Wu grabs his arm and begs him to call someone from her home. She swears that she is not insane, and someone will surely come to pick her up. Wu then snatches his pen and writes a number on his report, but he quickly takes it back. Len tells her that no patient is allowed to keep sharp objects, so as to stop them from hurting themselves and others. It is then revealed that the Riverside Rehabilitation Center is not a mental institution at all. It is an underground jail where rich people pay to abduct and eliminate their enemies under the disguise of mental illness. The center's director, Victor, tortures his patients and sells their organs in the black market. One day, a patient named Lulu reveals to Wu that she was sent here by her husband just because she couldn't bear a child. She claims that there is only one crazy, perverted person who can help her get out of this prison, but when Wu asks who that is, Lulu starts talking about having ice cream with earthworms. Timon and Pumbaa would be proud. Back in the present day, Ren ends his first interview session with Wu so that he can cross-check the events she mentioned. That night, he and his assistant find out that Victor, the director of the Riverside Rehab Center, was a business partner of Wu's stepfather, Ma Li. The reporter comes to the conclusion that Ma Li must have sent his daughter to the center for some reason. The next day, he has another interview session with Wu in the same interrogation room. The scene then shifts to the flashback, where Wu is idly sitting in her rehabilitation center cell, leaning against a wall with a small hole in it. It is 11 p.m., and she hears Lulu coming out of her cell, which is apparently a part of her daily routine. Suddenly, a hand appears out of the hole and tries to grab Wu, but she manages to crawl away. A dirty, crazy-looking man then peeps through it, and Wu realizes this is the person Lulu was talking about. Although frightened, she goes near the hole and taps it as loudly as possible. She then asks the man to help her escape from this prison. To her utter disgust, he asks her to meet him in the bathroom the next day. The following day, Wu sneaks away from the routine checkup line while the guards are distracted. She goes to the bathroom where the man seems to have been waiting for her. Wu immediately inquires how to escape this hellhole, to which he responds that there is a large pipe in the director's office that leads out of the establishment. There are 2 doors that she will have to pass through to get to the pipes. The man also tells her the password to the first gate that leads to the director's office, but before she can ask the password to the second one, he begins sniffing her in a perverted way.
Oh yeah.
Frightened, Wu bites his ear and runs away from there. She then makes it past the first gate but gets stuck at the main door that leads into the office. At this moment, Lulu comes out of her cell and strolls towards the director's office. She notices Wu struggling to open the main door, so she draws a pattern on the wall. The latter assumes it's some sort of password, so she decides to copy it, and as soon as she draws the pattern on the door, it swings open, allowing her to enter. Wu then comes across the large pipe which seems to be going out of the office. By this time, Victor and his men have discovered that Wu is missing from her cell and immediately realize that she's making a run for it. The director rushes to his office to check the CCTV cameras and hears heavy breathing coming in from the pipe. He opens the lid to it and sees Wu in there, slowly slipping away. This sends him into a state of panic and they rush to catch her. However, it is already too late as Wu manages to escape into the adjacent sewage. She then crawls out from the other end of the pipe and reaches a nearby highway. Luckily, a police car is passing by and Wu immediately rushes towards it. After enduring so much torture, her ordeal seems to have come to an end and she falls asleep in the back of the car. Unfortunately, the police are also on Victor's payroll and they take Wu right back to the rehabilitation center. Don't cook that, honey. The pork has gone bad. In the present, Ren does a bit of digging and learns that the owner of the Riverside Rehab Center is none other than Ma Li. Wu's mother, Li Xin, was the heir to 70% shares of a massive conglomerate owned by her father, and the remaining 30% was given to Wu. But Ma Li wanted to keep it all for himself, so he killed his wife and sent his stepdaughter to the rehabilitation center. In the next scene, Ren goes to his former boss and tells her about the story. She is instantly gripped, so she allows him to produce a few more episodes of the show, where he will examine the case of Wu Ruhajing. A week later, the first episode premieres on local TV, and the show proves to be a huge hit. Netzens follow the case on social media. I don't know what those are. And Wu begins to get massive public support. Back in the flashback, Molly is incensed at Victor for letting Wu escape and orders to get rid of her once and for all. This worries Nurse Len, who is also in the room, so he immediately calls the number that Wu wrote on his record. The number turns out to be of her biological dad, Wen, who promises to come as fast as possible. In the next scene, an enraged Victor orders his men to bound Wu to an operating bed. He plans to torture her by taking her organs out. At the same time, Len sneaks Wen into the center and slowly takes him to where his daughter is bound. Together, they manage to untie her, and Wen carries her outside, but unfortunately they are soon discovered by the guards. Following this, Wu, Wen, and the male nurse are tied in the operating room. Victor then drags Wen to the operating table and begins cutting his stomach without anesthesia.
Give me that spleen.
Elsewhere, Lulu strolls into Victor's room and begins lighting several candles. She accidentally causes a fire, which soon gets out of control and engulfs the entire office. Victor and his men, who are in the operating room, notice the smoke and rush towards the office. As the fire continues to rage on, Lulu casually reaches the operating room. She then unties all three people after they promise to give her a baby. Next, Wu, Wen, and Len escape outside, but now the fire has grown to the whole building. Len sees an opening and rushes alone, but is soon caught under a flaming door. At this moment, a burning Victor arrives at the scene. He aggressively grabs Wen and drags him into a flaming room, while Wu somehow escapes. Back in the present day, Ren shows all these events in his second episode. The public opinion is now overwhelmingly in support of Wu, and her image as a killer has completely faded away. A few weeks later, Wu is finally discharged from the nursing home. Ren is there to pick her up and have a last conversation before they go their separate ways. However, she stays silent throughout the ride and refuses to answer any of his questions. They soon reach her home, but before Wu heads inside, she turns back, gives him a pen, and says that in her time at the rehabilitation center, they were not allowed to use sharp objects like this. Suddenly, Ren connects all the dots and realizes that Wu couldn't have written the diary, as she couldn't use a pen. The scene abruptly shifts to Wu, who is now inside her room changing her clothes. As she takes her top off, a huge scar can be seen on her abdomen. A series of montages then reveals the real truth. It was Li Xin who was forcibly kept by the center and who wrote the diary. Wu was the one who had gone to rescue her mother when Len called her. Unfortunately, she got caught and Victor was operating on her before the fire engulfed the center. Wu, her mother, and Len managed to escape the operating room, but Li Xin got caught in the falling rubble and perished. Len, who had grabbed Li Xin's diary, managed to get away alive, but was severely burnt. He later saw Ren and his team in the abandoned house while they were shooting for their new program. It was Len who had sneaked in the diary in the prop box. On the other hand, Wu barely escaped the burning rehabilitation center and dragged herself home despite being heavily injured. There, she saw her stepfather enjoying a drink, thinking both his wife and stepdaughter had died. As the credits begin to roll, it is revealed that Wu took her father's revolver out of a cabinet and shot him dead.
If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to share it with your loved ones so they can enjoy it too. Your support really means a lot to us. Kindly leave a like, drop a comment and join our growing family by staying connected with us Yen.